Welcome to 2021. We made it. At the end of last year, like literally the very end of last year, I made or tried to make the wrong video. My 8th video on this YouTube channel was supposed to be about 2020 in retrospect. And that was a dumb idea because 2020 was dumb. So I've given some thought to it, and I've decided to start referring to 2020 as the year I decided to grow my hair out. And that's it. I'm going to stop thinking about everything else that happened last year and just start looking forward. And that's what this video is going to be about. It's going to be about looking forward. So let's look forward. So the way that I want to look forward is by talking a bit about goals, because I've set some goals with what I'm doing currently, and I have a long and somewhat questionable history with goals in general. But the place to start is with the inspiration. Like I said, earlier this week, aka last year, I was adrift trying to figure out how to describe last year in a way that was interesting, compelling, fun to talk about, and I was coming up empty. And I watched a video by Ali Abdaal. I will link his channel in the description. He's a productivity YouTuber who I discovered when I was looking for a note-taking app for my tablet, but his content is amazing. He is very passionate about productivity. He is a young doctor living in the UK, I believe, and just has a lot of amazing opinions and a really awesome YouTube channel as well. But I digress. What his video did for me is jog my memory on one of the things that I liked least about my time in the corporate world. And that was the way that it seems lots of companies do goal setting. Specifically, he reminded me of the acronym SMART. A SMART goal is one that is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. I had to glance down at my sheet like 10 times before I could get that right. I'm not a big fan of SMART goals. And to no one's surprise, Ali wasn't either. And he made some really cogent arguments against SMART goals and the challenges that are presented by them and things like that. But I wanted to talk about them because I agree with his core premise, which is that goals are good if done right, and goals are bad if done wrong. And so I wanted to apply that to my own life. So first and foremost, let's come up with an example of a SMART goal. A SMART goal for me might be to set a goal of having 250 subscribers by the end of 2021 on my YouTube channel. It is specific, right? It's referring to my YouTube channel. It is measurable. There is a number of subscribers that I am aiming for. It is attainable, I think, based on my current growth rate and things like that. It is relevant. It's the thing that I'm doing currently. And it is time-based. I set a deadline for it. Corporate America would be overjoyed with this revelation and with the goal that I just set. The problem is, for me at least, where that goal is coming from. Back in my corporate days, we had a lot of SMART goals. And if we were setting goals that weren't SMART, and that was SMART with a capital M because measurement was particularly important.
Shop smart. Shop S-smart. You got that?
We were doing it wrong. And the critique that I had back in those days in my corporate life was that measurability is usually a surrogate for distrust. And I stick by that. I think that often we measure things because we don't trust people to do the right thing, or because we have lost trust in their ability to set their own course. I think those who buy into those corporate philosophies might disagree and say that if you aren't measuring things, you have no foundation to know if you're improving or doing better. And I think there is some credence to that, but ultimately, more often than not, goals, and specifically measurable goals, were really more about communicating a distrust about a population and finding a way to alleviate that distrust by supplanting the need for trust with something that could be objectively measured. The logical extension of this belief came up anytime I talked to people about starting my own company or starting a startup. I dabbled in that a few times during my younger years, and I came to the same conclusion the longer and more jaded I spent in the corporate world. And that was that at the point where measurement became a necessity to ensure and keep people accountable, that I had kind of lost the script and all hope was over. The way that I often phrased this was the day that I walked into the micro kitchen of my company. It's a San Francisco tech thing, calling it a micro kitchen. It's basically just like, what is this? A kitchen for ants? A place where they keep snacks and bottles of water and stuff like that. But nonetheless, let's say I owned a company and it had a micro kitchen. And I, as the CEO, walked into the micro kitchen and saw some person that I didn't know particularly well putting a few energy bars from the micro kitchen into their backpack. If the first thought that popped into my head was, I wonder if this person is taking advantage, I wonder if this person is stealing from me or something like that, that would be a signal to me that the trust was lost, right? The people that I hired, presumably I trusted, but then the people that they hired, I trusted less and less. And so as the company grew, at some point, there would be a person who I could look at and no longer assume best intention. And so the kind of comical retort to that I would always give was, the moment I went into the micro kitchen, saw someone I thought was stealing, was the day that I sent out the email being like, all right, fun's over, everybody go home, take whatever you can. The most valuable thing in the office is the copy machine. Good luck. And that was just a way of saying that I didn't want to be part of the measurability, accountability, and goal-based culture that I had been so steeped in when I was on the receiving end of it. I didn't want to perpetuate that cycle in a venture that I created. So, as any normal person would do, I started Googling looking for alternatives to SMART goals. And I thought I was a genius and I had coined the idea of dumb goals. But unsurprisingly, there are 15 different permutations of dumb goals out there. And I'll run through a couple of them just because I found them kind of funny. The most popular one is dream-driven, uplifting, method-friendly, and behavior-triggered, which sounds very erudite and awesome, so I'll give it high marks. I also was a big fan of dangerously unattainable, monstrously big. That one has a good ring to it as well. But all of these things are really just an alternative to SMART goals, which I honestly think are a scourge on the face of this earth. The reason I'm thinking so much about goals, though, is because for those of you who have been around since the beginning, I set a rather audacious, maybe somewhat dumb goal at the beginning of this channel, which was for every video to be better than the last. And I wanted to talk specifically about that goal because there are pros and cons to it, I've realized. First, let's talk about the pros. It is not objectively measurable, right? There are certain ways in which I could attempt to measure better based on did it get more views or more likes or drive more discussion or things like that. But fundamentally, it is a qualitative goal. And I liked that about it. One of the cons of it, though, is that it is not completely without measure. And what I mean by that is I still have an internal barometer of the quality of the videos that I'm putting out. And when I think about it, I rank the videos myself, right? I say, this video, I messed up this, or this video, I messed up that. And so as a result, I found myself starting to measure this qualitative goal. And I thought that was kind of funny because hearkening back to our previous example, it made me feel kind of like the person in the micro kitchen putting a couple power bars into their backpack, and also the person observing them doing it. And so it created in me this like crisis of trust, crisis of self-trust, because I was sitting there kind of asking myself, am I living up to the standard that I set? And I think that that's a dangerous path to go down, because what it's done for me and what I've experienced over the last 8 weeks of making videos is a mounting pressure to do better and better. And that measurement of better and better being qualitative has just led me to constantly doubt and question if I'm really improving. So in that way, I feel like that goal was a good first step, right? It broke with tradition. It stepped away from SMART goals. It did the things that it needed to do, but I don't think I nailed it on the first try. And this YouTube channel is nothing if not nailing things on the first try. So I want to try again. And that's what I wanted to do at the end of this video. I wanted to wrap this up by reimagining my goals in a way that is consistent with what I think the message was from Ali's video about creating North Star style goals that help us determine if we're pointing in the right direction. Back in the corporate days, we referred to them as directional. Usually that was used almost as a derogatory statement, meaning don't trust the numbers. But here it's just meant for me to be a sanity check. Am I pointing in the right direction? Am I making little bits of progress? Am I doing the kinds of things that I hoped to do? So moving forward in 2021, I think there are 4 main goals that I want to focus on. One of them very YouTube and streaming specific, and then 3 that are just things I want to do for myself. So let's start out with the replacement for make each video better than the last. I think the new version of that is I want to learn something new with every video that I created. So far, I think I have done that 100% of the time. In the teleportation video, I learned how to use Fusion, which is a sub-portion of the editing software that I use that allows you to do those rather lame special effects like the teleporter woo 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 and things like that. In my last video, I learned about smooth cut, which is like one of those absolute facepalm moments where you're just like, how did I not know this existed? But for those who aren't familiar, it basically just smooths out the transition between 2 cuts, which my first 6 videos desperately could have benefited from. So anyways, goal number 1 is to just learn something new. And I think that as a corollary of that, if I am constantly learning, I will constantly improve. If I apply all of my learnings from the previous videos to the latest video, it will undoubtedly be better, but I will no longer find myself measuring whether I have attained that goal in a particular video. And I also won't have the stress and anxiety related to worrying about how I'm going to top the last video, because I don't think that's what this is about. Not now, and it shouldn't be ever. The second goal, and this is deeply personal and also somewhat inspired by Ali Abdaal, is I want to continue making fitness a priority for me. It's been a journey over the last couple of years that's been a little derailed by the COVID pandemic, but I want to keep pushing in that direction, and I want to keep getting more healthy and more fit. And that is a holistic journey that involves meditation, exercise, diet, all of these things that I'll probably talk about in some future videos. But it's something that I am not great at, but becoming more and more passionate about. And then the last 2 are, I think, the most important North Stars and also the least smart of my goals. And that is, first, to stress less. Because at times I have found the process of creating these videos to be stressful. And I don't want that to be the case. Anything that I do that has lasting potential can't be a source of profound stress for me. And I'm not saying that this has become that yet, but I've seen indications that it could trend that way if I don't manage it more effectively. And that leads us to my final and I think most important goal, which is just to have more fun. I think that 2020 was the fun killer of a year, and we all need more fun in our lives. And I want this YouTube channel, what I'm doing on Twitch, and so much more of my life to just be more fun. And so I'm going to make that a priority in 2021. Anyways, this was my first video of 2021. I hope that there will be 52 more of them this year, plus or minus, depending on how dates line up. Thank you, as always, for watching, and I hope to share my journey in 2021 with anyone willing to watch. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Not apotamus. Ponderous.